What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're talking about wildcards once again, but this time for Game Week 8. And it's interesting what difference a week will make, because I think a lot of the wildcarders will look similar to those of us that went for it in Game Week 7, but there are enough different players that you could think about going for that maybe a lot of us didn't consider in Game Week 7. So I'm going to go for a bunch of the talking points first, and then we're going to do the draft tinkering at the end as well. So if you enjoy it, please do give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and let's jump into it. Okay, so the way I've decided to do this video, because we're in an international break and it's Monday when this is going to go out, there's obviously still like nearly 2 weeks until the next deadline. So things might change quite a bit between now and then. Players might get injured during the international break, whether it's the ones we talk about or someone that might affect their place in the team. Obviously, if a Man City player gets injured, it could be big in terms of who then might get starts. So I'm not going to go massively in depth on all of these points, but I am going to give you my opinion for right now. And I've got the FPL screen up as well, so we can talk through some of the players and their fixtures and stuff like that, and why people are looking at them, right? So we're going to go through one by one, and yeah, just discuss all the talking points. Then we'll do a draft at the end, something more like what I would do right now if I was wildcarding again just a week later, right, or even a couple of days later. So wildcard now or later, I mean, this is always a question. I see people say, like, should I wildcard in Game Week 12? Should I wildcard in Game Week 15, 16, etc.? You need to have your own plan for your own team. There isn't like a magic game week where it works, right? I mean, I only wildcarded last week because of the news. Otherwise, I would have waited for this week, which is what a lot of people did. And it's just that there's enough fixture swings and there was enough issues in my team to do that. There is a point, I think it was FPL Acumen on Twitter said to me that for some people's teams, Game Week 8 might actually be okay. You know, I still stand by this, by the way, unless we get news otherwise. If Ronaldo is going to start against Leicester and Lukaku is going to start against Brentford, there really isn't too much between that. I've said that all along. So if you've got Ronaldo instead of Lukaku, it doesn't really matter for Game Week 8 because everybody's going to captain Salah anyway. So if you've already got like Chelsea defenders in, if you've got your Brighton players left over, they're playing Norwich, they already got a clean sheet against Arsenal as well. This game's away, but it is an easier fixture, so they could get clean sheets against Norwich as well. Some teams will not need to be wildcarded this week, in which case you could wait till Game Week 9 or 10 or 11, depending on your team. So that's obviously completely up to you. This is mostly for people that want to wildcard in Game Week 8. And just really quickly, if you're 100% going to wildcard in Game Week 8, there is no reason to wait to hit the button. Start getting the players in now so you don't miss any price rises. You can check FPL statistics to see fplstatistics.co.uk to see when players might go up in price. The only way you could ever get screwed over by doing that is if everyone you want to bring in gets injured, and you'd have to be pretty unlucky for that to happen, right? Okay, let's get into the talking points. So, Diogo Jota, should you keep him on a wild card? I think you can probably make a case, right? If I just bring up Liverpool's fixtures, I know this is Salah, but obviously Jota has the same. You could make a case for keeping him for Watford away, but his minutes are at risk now, right? Forget about starts. Even if he starts, there's a good chance he comes off at 60 to 70 minutes because whoever misses out, whether it's Mane or Firmino mostly, at some point Salah might miss out, but he doesn't get rested as much as the other ones, the other guys in the team. His minutes will be managed. So he might come on and we can sit here and say, yeah, if he comes on great, he can get some points. You could say that about any player. I know Jota is like a level above a lot of them, but it's not what you want from a player. You don't want players coming on for the last 20 minutes. It's not good. You want players that are going to play 70, 80, 90 minutes and not have to worry about them every week. I do think Liverpool's fixtures are probably strong enough over the next kind of 10 where you could make a case. Because if he starts like 6 or 7, then he might do enough. But is that enough versus, like, the big question is, who are you swapping out to get him in? And is that player going to play more? And in that case, going to probably score more points? Like, Watford away is a really good fixture, but what if Firmino starts? Then you run straight into Man United away. And Brighton at home and West Ham away, they're not pushover teams, right? Liverpool will probably win those games. They are, of course, the favourites for them. They can easily score 1-2 goals. But they're not the kind of teams to get, like, completely just pushed away and, like, 3, 4, 5 goals from Liverpool, right? I know Liverpool are good, but those teams are difficult to face. So it's not even the most exciting run. So I would definitely consider, I think you have to consider keeping Jota if you're on a wild card, but I don't think I would, to be honest. But this is maybe one of the reasons to wait until Game Week 9, because you could keep him for Game Week 8, hope that he plays against Watford, and then sell him the next week, right? But on a wild card, I probably wouldn't have him. Man City, I think everyone's clear that Man City defence looks good. Cancelo and Diaz are the clear players to go for because Cancelo well more attacking than the rest of the team, and he's played every game so far, and he can play right back or left back, and Diaz is obviously nailed on. Now I say that having myself gone for Laporte. Now don't read too much into that, because some of that is my own thinking about transfers that I might want to make in the future. So although I've just wildcard, I'm already planning about future moves. So saving that money over Diaz might be good for me. But if Diaz goes up in price, I might have screwed myself over there. But basically, it gives me the option of going to Trent for either Laporte or a Chelsea defender. We won't get into it. But he has started every game he's been available for so far. So I don't think he was available for Spurs or for Southampton. And he started every other one. So if he keeps starting, obviously, he's really good value. And his goal threat's pretty decent. We've seen that in the past. And he does save you a bit of money. And you get, a 0.6 million saving off going for Diaz. But realistically, if you want safety, Diaz and Cancelo are the ones. But to talk about the attackers, right now, I'd say Foden, Grealish and De Bruyne are probably the ones that I would look at, mostly because they're midfielders. I know people really like Jesus, and to be honest, I don't really have a problem with him as a pick, as long as he fits into your team. But if you think about all the other strikers that people are looking at right now, Lukaku for me is a must-own because of captaincy. Forget about this Salah captain every week's lark. Lukaku plays Norwich at home in game week 9. So therefore, I would want him in my team, right? You might have a different opinion. If you don't want Lukaku, absolutely fair enough. Don't go for him. But he takes up one spot. A lot of people are not going to want to drop Antonio, which we'll talk about in a minute. That leaves one more spot. Jimenez is doing really well. Tony's obviously a nice cheap option in. Armstrong's got good fixtures as well. I'm just not sure Jesus for like 8.5, 8.6 million fits into our teams, but he is playing the majority of games right now. So he's not a bad pick by any means, but he does take up a forward spot, and that's why I prefer Foden, Grealish and De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne, the problem with De Bruyne is, if you get someone in at that price, you want to captain him. And do you want to captain him this week against Burnley at home? Now, Man City will probably score a good few goals in that game. He could absolutely be part of that. I think last year he might have got 2 returns in that same fixture, and Crystal Palace at home is pretty decent as well in game weeks 8 and 10. But first of all, you've got Salah against Watford, so you're massively going against the crowd. Again, no problem with that if you want to do it, but it does take up a lot of money if you're also trying to fit Salah and Lukaku into your team. And game week 10, obviously, is a good option, but that week, Salah, again, another nice home fixture, Brighton at home, not, again, a team that's going to be pushed over at all. But Liverpool at home are just ridiculous. And then even Lukaku against Newcastle away. So De Bruyne just doesn't feel as must-own as he maybe did in the past. So fitting Foden and Grealish in is decent. Now, both of them seem to be starting quite regularly when available. I mean, Grealish has pretty much started every game. I wouldn't read too much into what happened yesterday. It was against Liverpool. He was playing as a number 9. The fact that he can play left or central or even play as an 8 and Foden can pretty much do the same makes them quite versatile. And it's quite clear right now the likes of Sterling, Mahrez, etc. just aren't favoured in that team. The only player that might come back in is Torres, maybe to play up front, because they did miss someone that could play that number 9 role yesterday. Grealish just wasn't great at all. But if I was picking a cheaper midfielder, it'd probably be Foden or Grealish. I've got to be honest, the fact that Foden is back in the team and playing quite regularly, and obviously plays in that kind of front 3 mostly, although he could play as an 8, he does tempt me right now. But the fact Grealish is nailed on, that's probably where I would still go. But if you want to do something a little bit more fun, Foden's probably why. I think Foden's got a little bit more of an eye for goal than Grealish, and maybe that's why I slightly favour him. But I do think because of the fixture run, either of those players are good. But as we're going to find out with the draft token in a minute, it is quite difficult to fit them in, and a Jimenez, and an Antonio, and a Trent Alexander-Arnold, plus your Chelsea defenders, plus your Man City defenders. So something's got to be sacrificed. So it could be the Man City mid. I don't think they're essential, but I do think with the fixtures they've got, the fact that Grealish has played so many games, he is a really good option right now. Calvert-Lewin is definitely worth looking at if he's fit. Again, this is still quite early on in the week. We'll have to see if he's back and available, but he's now got 2 weeks off, right? I don't think he's in the England squad at all. So West Ham away is a decent enough fixture. It's the Watford at home game that I really like. And also, what price is he now? He is 8 million, so he's gone back down in price. You've got that price point to move to Jimenez, Antonio, to Bamford, to Callum Wilson when he's finally back. There, the only thing that maybe would put me off about Calvert-Lewin is the fixtures aren't good for very long. So West Ham at home is not even that great, but it is a home fixture. Watford at home is really good. Then Wolves away, Spurs at home, Man City away is pretty tough. Then it's Brentford away, then it's Liverpool at home. So I'm just not sure I would go there. That Watford at home fixture could be gold, and you could then move him on to someone else, but you're planning a transfer quite quickly. So that's probably what would put me off Calvert-Lewin. On Hwang versus Jimenez, if Hwang keeps starting, he's an absolute bargain, and he could be a really good enabler up front. But I just think Trincao and Traore started the first 5 games, I think it was, and then they lost their place. There's nothing to say that Hwang won't be rotated a little bit. Again, if I come back onto the FPL screen here, let's see his minutes so far. He does get appearances in most games, I think. Oh yeah, of course, he's a forward. So 87 and 90 is pretty nice. And obviously did get both the goals against Newcastle, which is why people are looking at him. And you might say the reason they didn't start at the beginning was because obviously he was a new transfer into the team. So maybe they were trying to bed him in slowly. I don't know. He's a fun pick, and I do like the fixtures, despite the fact 3 of the next 4 are away. But I just think with Jimenez, yes, you pay the extra, but he's on penalties. You know he's going to start every game, and he plays 90 minutes. So right now, I definitely think Jimenez is the better option. But if you save 2 million, and that lets you do a lot of other things with your team, you could probably make a case for it. But right now, I think I'd stick with Jimenez. And premium goalkeeper, I'm just not interested at all. I think even if it looks good now, you'll regret it down the line. You're better off putting that money into the team. Go for a 4.5 million keeper instead. I'm never going to change my opinion on that. So if you want to go for it, go for it. But you won't hear me ever think otherwise. Okay, let's just go for a few more points. So Iheanacho and Vardy are interesting, right? If we look at Vardy keeps ticking over, but I just don't know when I'm going to captain him over the next few games. United at home, Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, Chelsea at home, Watford at home. That's probably a pretty nice fixture there in Game Week 13. But if we go to Game Week 13 and have a look at the other fixtures, where's Man United? So Man United are playing Chelsea. Where's Liverpool? Liverpool are playing, I can't even see them, Southampton at home. So you could go Vardy, but also Salah's a perfectly good option, right? And Salah is just looking ridiculously good this year. So that is why I don't particularly fancy Vardy as an option, because I think I will captain Lukaku over the next few weeks, but I won't captain Vardy. And the price difference isn't so big that Vardy is probably worth the saving. He's a good option. He's on penalties, nailed 90 minutes pretty much every game. But I just don't think he's going to be worth the money. I think you've probably missed the boat on the last few fixtures. And with Iheanacho, because of those fixtures Leicester have got coming up, I think he's a wait and see for me. You could go for him, but again, there's so many good forward options that are definitely going to start every game, that are pretty much going to play 90 minutes. Some of them have penalties as well. Iheanacho is great, and if you told me right now he's going to start the next 10 games, you could definitely make a case to include him, even though some of those fixtures are a little bit tougher. But I don't think we can guarantee that he's going to start the next few, despite the fact they obviously scored a few goals. They still didn't do that well in terms of end result. So there's nothing to say that Rodgers won't revert back to kind of type. So I think it's a bit early to go for him personally, but I am more risk adverse like that. So again, you might be different. Chelsea defenders is really tough because Azpilicueta and Rudiger look really good. They're pretty much as nailed as you're going to get in that Chelsea lineup. Even this week when when they played, obviously Chalobah came in instead of Christensen. So he's just not an option for me now. Neither's Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva's not going to play in Game Week 8 anyway. So Azpilicueta and Rudiger are the safest. But if Reece James is back fit and available, I would definitely look at him because there's less competition on that right side despite Hudson-Odoi playing there. And obviously now the left side's interesting. You could go for Chilwell if you've got a strong bench. But I think him and Alonso are going to rotate a little bit. I personally just don't see where Chilwell gets a run of 5 games and Alonso just doesn't play at all. I think Alonso probably did enough to get some minutes somewhere. So that would probably put me off. So I think Azpilicueta and Rudiger are the safest. James is next up for me if he's fit and available. And if you want to go for something a bit more interesting, I think it's got to be Chilwell. I completely forget about Alonso now, but that's just me. Double Chelsea defence versus double Man City. So if Trent is back fit, most people are not going to have Trent plus 2 Chelsea defenders plus 2 Man City defenders. It's quite expensive. So double Man City probably looks pretty good going forward, but you can get in a little bit cheaper with the Chelsea players, right? Azpilicueta is a little bit cheaper than Diaz. Rudiger's cheaper than a lot of them. So maybe going for double Chelsea plus 1 Man City is still okay. I think defensively, right, Man City are the best defence. But I just look at the fixtures, I can bring them up on screen here. I just think, right, Brighton away, okay, Brighton aren't, there could be clean sheets against Burnley, Brighton and Palace, right? So Man United away is probably the toughest game they've got in the next 5. So you could see clean sheets all the way down here, right? And with Chelsea, it's kind of similar in the short term, but maybe longer term, not quite as good. West Ham is an away game. They've got Man United. Leicester's also an away game as well. I think it's pretty close. Right now, if I had to say which way I would go, if I could afford it, I'd possibly rather have double Man City defence than double Chelsea if I could only have one or the other. But it is pretty damn close. There's not really, apart from Cancelo, between Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Cancelo and Diaz, there's not a massive amount of goal threat there. So going for the best defence is probably a pretty good course of action, to be honest. Son is one to consider. Like, he has kind of consistently ticked over. I think he's got like 4 returns in 6, is it so far? Let me pull up Son here. Yeah, 6 games. 5 returns, 3 goals, 2 assists. So 5 returns in 6. The only thing is, West Ham away and Man United at home, and then Everton away. And I'm not saying this is like a red fixture, Everton away, but I don't think it's that easy. So if you get him in, I feel like you're kind of getting him in for this run. So you could possibly just have a plan for how to get him in. Like Leeds, this is ridiculous, this run here, by the way. Leeds, Brentford and Norwich all at home over the space of 4 game weeks, with the other game being Burnley away. This could be really big points for Spurs. Forget about how they've played so far. Fixtures are king. That's a really good run. So if you don't get him in now, and I still don't think I would put him in right now, personally, even though Newcastle away is a good fixture, I would be looking for a plan to possibly get him in there. You don't have to lock yourself into that plan, but you need to know how you're going to do it if you need to do it, right? Are you going to drop Lukaku? Are you going to drop some of your defenders in price? Whatever it is, it's a good run, but I don't think I'd have him right now. And then Bamford, obviously, we need to wait and see if he's fit. But if he is, like, I'll just pull up Leeds fixtures. Southampton away, Wolves at home, Norwich away. It's pretty good. I got to be honest, I actually don't know if I would go for Bamford, because is he going to be fully fit, first of all? 2 of the next 3 are away games as well. And then he runs into Leicester, Spurs away, Brighton away. Because this is not a bad fixture run, right? I'm not saying it's that bad. But right now, are there better forwards? Possibly. Jimenez, maybe. I don't know. I think Bamford, if he was fit, you could definitely make a case to include him, because he would be a long-term hold. So yeah, I probably would make a case to include him if he was fit. But again, you're going to have to make sacrifices in defence to be able to afford Jimenez and Bamford and Lukaku, as we'll see in just a second. And lastly, Cedric Antonio, you can definitely make a case for it, I think. 2 out of the next 3 are away games. Everton, Spurs, Villa. And then you've got Liverpool, Man City to come up as well. Like this run of fixtures here is not fantastic, but he is so good, I don't think he's a must-sell. And I think I would ideally want him for these 3 fixtures. I think Everton away, Spurs at home and Villa away is fine. This is where it gets really tricky. Having to play Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea, the 3 worst teams you can face over the space of 5 games, there's a case to be made to get rid of him there. I just don't know if that case is there right now. I'd probably want him for the next 3. Anyway, that's enough talking points. Let's get into the tinkering. Okay, so I obviously have a point of view over a bunch of players, right? And as you've probably seen if you've been watching my videos all season, my opinion doesn't massively change based on what's just happened in a game week, right? So this was my previous wildcard team. It's my current team, which I built in game week 7, but always had an eye from game week 8 onwards. So there's obviously not too much that I would probably change, right? The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to just take out all the players that I think you can make a decision over, and then we'll see who's left that I would pretty much definitely have in. Pretty much anyway, right? So I think I probably would have Jimenez. I just think this run of fixtures, again, the fact that 3 of the next 4 away is a little bit annoying. But in this run, you've got Leeds, you've got Norwich, you've got Burnley, 3 really good teams to face. The other ones are Crystal Palace, Villa, and Everton at home. I don't think they're that bad. And I think Wolves are creating enough chances that this is a pretty good run. Again, Jimenez is probably not must own, but I would probably have him if I wildcarded again. I would definitely have Lukaku. I'm not buying into this whole salaries must captain. And to be honest, even if Salah is the best captain in a lot of these weeks, Lukaku is close, right? These are really good fixtures. Norwich at home, Burnley at home. Again, 2 of the best 5 fixtures I'd say you can have, top 5 fixtures. And one of the other ones is Newcastle away as well. It's a really nice run over the next 4. And I think a lot of us will captain Lukaku at home against Norwich in game week 9. And you know my strategy. If I'm going to captain someone, I need them in the team, obviously, right? Makes sense. So he'd be in, Salah would be in, Rafinha would be in. I would keep Brownhill in as well. I think, depending on the strategy you're going for, that 5th midfielder, look, you can make a case that maybe some of the other 4.5s might be slightly more attacking. But if we're going to be realistic, you're never going to play that player unless you absolutely have to. Whoever it is, Douglas Luiz, I keep seeing get thrown around, for example. You're never going to play Douglas Luiz over one of your other players unless you're absolutely stuck. And then you're hoping that not only has he got the fixture at that time you're stuck, that's when he's going to get like one of his 2, maybe 3 attacking returns for the season. So personally, I still think I would stick with Brownhill at 4.4 just to take a little bit of money out of your side. In those positions, you want to get as much money out of your team as possible to spend elsewhere. You want to be more flexible, right? I don't think Saka is a must-have on wildcard, so I could possibly take him out. I've got enough money to upgrade him to Foden or Grealish, and I'm seriously tempted to do that this week. But that's a whole different conversation for another video. And I think I would have Mbeumo. I think Chelsea at home is not ideal this week. But Leicester at home, Burnley away, Norwich at home, Newcastle away, Everton at home. This is a really nice fixture run. And as of right now, Mbeumo and Tony look absolutely nailed on playing in that front two. He's a midfielder, and Mbeumo listed as 5.5 million. It just feels too good to turn down. You can literally just play him every single week if you wanted to, or if you've got a strong bench, you could definitely... you could bench him if you wanted to, basically, is what I'm saying. You could rotate your squad a bit, but he's always there. He's coming on if there's an issue, or you're just playing him most weeks anyway. So I'm not actually changing most of my attack, although I could be persuaded to possibly change Jimenez. In defence, Livramento is a really good option, but again, if you've got a strong defence, even with these fixtures, you're mostly just going to bench him still, but obviously he does give you cover if you need it, and he's one of the best options at kind of 4.2 million or less. He is the best option if we're realistic. The only thing I would say is, I don't know how long he's going to stay in the team for, but for 0.1 more you get Duffy, and his goal threat is pretty big for a defender, and Brighton defence is really good, and that's the one thing I've completely jumped off is Brighton defence, and I don't think it's going to be a mistake in the short term because these are really tough fixtures like Man City and Liverpool, but as a rotation option like Newcastle at home, Norwich away, Leeds at home even, like Leeds aren't great from set pieces, he could be a good option to hold on to. So I would probably keep Livramento, but I think Shane Duffy is an option. The main difference is I think most people think that Livramento is absolutely nailed on, which is fair enough, right? He does look like he is. And when Lamptey's back, whenever the hell that might be, it could be a case that he plays right wing back and Veltman plays centre back, in which case there's one less centre back spot. We know Dunk's not missing out. So then it's Webster when he's fit, it's Duffy, there's Burn that can play there as well. Then it might become tricky. But Brighton are keeping clean sheets. They're playing really well. Defensively, they've been decent. And Duffy's been a big part of that. So I don't know if he is going to lose his place soon. But I'd probably keep Livramento. Rudiger would definitely be in there as well. I think he's a little bit more valuable than Azpilicueta. So I think when Reece James is fit, Azpilicueta is mostly going to play centre-back. So that whole right wing-back thing will become less of an issue, and I would have to keep Cancelo. So you can maybe make an option to get rid of these two. And goalkeepers, again, Arsenal defence looks good, and if you're looking very short term, their fixtures are better than Brighton for sure. But you're probably not going to change your goalkeeper now for like this length of time. All these fixtures here, you're probably just not going to change your goalkeeper for. So short-term fixtures don't really make a difference. So there's absolutely a case to be made to have Sanchez instead of Ramsdale. But I've made my Ramsdale choice now, so I'd probably stick to it. So then we've got to fill in these gaps. I would probably go... If you're brave enough to get rid of Antonio, I'm not saying I would do that, but you could put Tony in there instead. So let's just see what you can do with that money. So you put Tony in at 6.3, absolutely nailed, penalties, etc. In defence, you need one big defender. So let's pretend that Trent is fit. Now this is where some teams will diverge, right? Because a lot of us right now have got 4 good defenders, and it's not that I'm regretting it, but I'm already looking now at kind of plans for the future about where I might want to upgrade some attackers. Like even if I get Tony in, like if I wanted Son, I probably couldn't have those 4 big defenders. And it's not really my play style. I don't usually have 7 good attackers plus 4 good defenders, which means I have to make a decision every week. Now, I don't think that inherently is a bad strategy at all. In fact, it's probably quite a good one, because when a player gets suspended for one game or is just injured for one game, you're not forced into selling them because you've got a backup player on the squad that you don't mind playing. But you could make a decision here to get in someone a little bit cheaper. Maybe it's Duffy. Maybe you spend a little bit more on someone like Veltman as your 4.4. Maybe you go slightly more expensive. Maybe you go for Sanchez in goal and you get Tierney in at 4.9 million just to save some money. And then you've got 8.9 million for this spot, where I would probably go for a Man City player, Foden or Grealish. We'll just put Grealish in for now. He's actually gone down in price, by the way. So I think him and Foden are the same price. Grealish 7.9. And Foden, where is Foden? I can't see him. There he is, 7.9, yeah, so the same price. Something like that. And then you've got $1 million to play around with. I'm not really quite sure where I'd spend that $1 million right now. Possibly on Tierney up to a different defender. You could get Laporte, you could almost get to Diaz, and you might have more money to spend than me. But I don't think I would change my wildcard team too much. The other option that I've seen a lot of people do is you downgrade Jimenez to Armstrong, because Southampton have got a pretty nice fixture roll. We've barely even talked about it. Leeds, Burnley, Villa at home, with Watford away and Norwich away. I mean, again, this is almost as good as it gets, this little fixture run here. So you could go for him, and you've got 2.5 million left over. So there's your Son money, for example, if you wanted to go for him. And you've still got these 4 good defenders. So when Armstrong's got a bad fixture, you just play 4 defenders and you play 4-4-2 instead. You can just play Tony in most games. And this week, for example, you could bench Tony against Chelsea if you wanted to, play all 4 defenders and play Armstrong. You've got options, right? And that's maybe the way to get Son in. But this is a big question mark for me, is this 4th defender. Do you go big? Like, do you try and get a Diaz in there as well? Which is entirely possible. Obviously, you've got to downgrade Son. You've still got 9.2 to spend. Do you do that, or do you just go for like a normal setup, which is like 3 good defenders plus a cheaper one plus a really cheap one? That's what a lot of people would do. Because it's easy to say the money's there right now, but it might not always be there as we go through. And when you want to get the money out of that position, you've got to make more transfers. So I really would think strongly about whether you want that 4th player. I don't think it's a bad choice. Right? I've done it, so I'm quite happy with it. But you've got to think about that. And obviously with Trent, if he's not fit for game week 8, I would be tempted to spend the money and just leave him out for a few game weeks and then think about a plan later on to get him in. You don't want to be completely like not able to get him quickly, but at the same time, if he's not able to make Watford, then suddenly you've got Man United away, Brighton at home, West Ham away. It's not a great fixture run. You could almost wait until game week 13 to get him back in. So if he's not fit, I'd possibly leave him out. And then I definitely would go for Azpilicueta, and then I would just spend that money elsewhere. So there's a few things here you can do. I don't think I would do this right now, Tony and Armstrong. I think Tony is better than Armstrong long term, but in the short term, Armstrong's probably the better option. But if I was picking one, I would definitely go for Tony, because I wouldn't want to be using too many transfers on this spot. And I think I would probably go for Jimenez. For those of you that want to go for Antonio, which is perfectly fine, I think it is scary to get rid of him with his ownership. It's still 45.6%. Then basically you're down to kind of basically a similar squad to how I've already got, right? So Saka could be the option here. You could even spend less money. You could go for like Decore or Townsend, someone like that, if you thought they were going to keep it up for Everton. They've obviously got that Watford at home fixture coming up as well. But obviously this is back pretty much to what my wildcard was originally. So yeah, I think Lukaku, Rafinha, Salah, Brownhill and Burmo, Cancelo, Rudiger, those 7 I would probably keep. The rest of it is up for discussion. There's some big choices to make. Especially around those defenders. Like Chilwell, for example, is a really nice option, and Reece James. Like you could possibly, just because Rudiger's so nailed for 5.7, that could be the reason you go for double Chelsea defence, because Reece James is so attacking. So you could put him in instead at 5.5 now. He's actually gone down in price, absolutely crazy. And he's a full 0.6 million now cheaper than Diaz, but he's way more attacking. So even if he misses the odd game, he might make that up in attacking returns. But again, if that's not a position you want to spend loads of transfers on, you could just go for Diaz straight away. So I know I don't like just putting up one draft and saying this is the draft I would go for, because there's more to it than that, which is why I prefer doing the tinkering way, because there's not an ultimate setup. It all depends how you want to go for. But there's nothing wrong with this team, and obviously I like it because it's very close to mine. But I could seriously consider going for Tony over one of these two, just for the long term. I think Jimenez obviously just had 2 nice fixtures, Southampton away and Newcastle at home, and has got some more good ones coming up. But Tony's just on. He's basically like a cheaper Jimenez. He's also on penalties. He's also nailed for 90 minutes. He's also going to start every game. There's nothing wrong with him at all. But the rest of it, I'd probably keep the same. It's just his defence. If Trent's not fit, do you spend the money? I think I probably would. And in goal, Ramsdale versus Sanchez. But there you go. There's all my thoughts on players. That's been very long. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There we go. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know if you've got any other questions below. Obviously, we're in international break, so there's a bunch more videos planned over these couple of weeks where we'll try and go a bit more in depth. I just wanted to go through a little bit of my thought process, what I'd be thinking about if I was drafting my wildcard. You don't want to get too locked into it right now, but you don't want to probably do too much tinkering either, because lots could change over the next couple of weeks. If you haven't checked out Patreon, link in the description below. Loads of new recruits to talk about. So James I, Scar 101, Dan M, Ben C, H, Mark S, Richard S, Puanan, Danny, and Jamjar. Thank you very much for signing up since last video. If you want to check that out, link in the description below. I will leave it there. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that helped. Back with another video tomorrow. I'll see you soon.